All right. Hey, folks. Welcome back to another episode of Artist Stories of Middle Georgia. I'm your host, Victor Rigoli, and I have a guest today with me, Arrin Burgand. Thank you, Arrin, so much for being on the podcast.
Well, I appreciate being here and thank you so much for, I guess, seeking me out to interview. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're certainly welcome. I don't know how I sought you out. I'm sure it was probably on Facebook or maybe the Facebook page or something like that. And I saw some of your work, and it's like, I got to have her on the podcast to find out about who she is and what her story's all about. And I saw some of your work, and thank goodness, we've been able to connect and get you on the podcast today. And this is probably going to be the last one I do this year because gosh, a week from today, what is Christmas Day? And then the following week is New Year's Day. And so the next couple of weeks are going to be very busy. And I know that you have been very busy because of some of the storefront paintings that you've done. And I saw some of that artwork there. And real quick, just a little bit about that. I saw where you did some artwork, and I don't know how long ago it was. It was at Cortez Jewelers over on Forsyth.
That
Do
was
you
so
remember
many
that?
years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know Richard Cortez, and he was a year ahead of me in high school, and we had a mutual friend, Carl Knight, but we called him Dickie Cortez. Yeah, that was his nickname, Richard, so, but anyway, I thought, hey, that's kind of cool, that's so cool. But I love some of that artwork. But tell us your artist story. Where does it begin? How long have you been painting? What is your medium of choice? That kind of thing.
You want me to go all the way back to
I'm going to
kindergarten?
go back. I mean, if you were born and your parents or mother or whatever put a brush in your hand, that's what I want to know about. Yeah.
All right, I'll
So
tell
where
you
does
that
it begin?
in the closet in my bedroom, and I think I was 4 years old, and I was
Oh,
coloring on the walls, and just I would remember getting my crayons and just doing a whole bunch of coloring on the walls. But I think I've loved art before elementary school started.
okay.
So it really began, I would say, first grade. I had this teacher, and her name was Miss Bowling. And to this day, she's one of those people you think of, like who is your mentor or who stood out in your life. And I think she was probably one of the first, other than an uncle, and I'll talk about him. But she was my first grade teacher, and she read the story, The Boxcart Children. And she would always read different stories to us. And the other story she would read, of course, was I believe it was, the Beverly Cleary. Um, what is it called? I'm so sorry. Ramona Quimby. I'm sorry.
Okay.
And she would just read and we would just sit there. And I remember my mind just escaping, and she would read this story about the Boxcar Children. And I started drawing the kids and what she would, tell the story. And my love for illustration really began with Miss Boland's class.
How about that?
And then I have an uncle. He's a fine artist. When I tell you he is beyond talented, he builds canoes and he does woodworking. But he was a really particular fine artist, detail. He would paint watercolor, and I remember inviting him to my elementary school for our class. And he
Oh,
did this.
wow.
He just brought a piece of dogwood in and a pecan, and he sat there and illustrated it and painted it for our entire class. And of course, that was my uncle. So he just was amazing to do that for our school. And then our principal hung it in his office. So my whole entire elementary years, I'd go in the office and there is my uncle's art on the wall. So, as a child, things really can stand out and affect you positive, and it was
What a
exciting.
great impression that your uncle had on you, at an early age to see that and to be reminded of his talent and to be reminded of your uncle when you go into the principal's office. And I hope when you went into the principal's office, it was on good terms.
It was always on good terms. I had the
Okay.
best elementary school ever. And that was another, we had the best teachers. It was great. And also in our library, our public library, and it was Centerville Elementary is where I grew up
Oh,
in
okay.
Centerville. Yeah. And I remember there was, I've done a lot of pastel, but in the library, the librarian would have a guest, and he would come every so often, and he would read a story and do the illustration with pastel really quickly. And that left an impression on me. Another thing that left an impression in elementary school, and you can tell like how much influence you have on a child. There was two men that came in and we were eating lunch in the cafeteria and they started painting a mural on the stage, behind the stage on the big
Right.
wall. And it was Charlotte's Web. And it was just so fascinating because every time we went to lunch, I could not wait because I was like, how far are they into this? But my love for like big art really began watching those two men paint. It's just so much freedom to paint large is how I feel. But we have our influences throughout life, and there's many more as I've grown.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you take art in high school?
I always have taken art.
Okay.
I'm an art major.
All right. And you went to Wesleyan, is that correct?
I did. I went to Wesleyan.
Okay.
My degree was in studio art, and Frances de la Rosa was a huge influence.
Okay.
That was really the first time I ever was able to take a painting class. I took a watercolor as a child, but I never had art supplies really growing up other than like just plain paper or notebook
And a
paper.
box of crayons and
Yeah, I just had simple stuff. I
palette.
remember just working in my bedroom one time. I had asked for Christmas. I think I was in maybe 5th grade. I was young. And I asked for an art table to draw on,
Oh, wow.
And so that was my gift. And I remember always being in my bedroom and sketching while my sister and everyone's playing. I would be drawing or painting, not painting.
They're out running around and riding bicycles, and you're at
80s.
home painting and sketching and drawing. That's cool.
Yeah. And I remember I didn't have paints. I remember drawing and getting out fingernail polish, and that was like painting with fingernail polish just to have that painting experience.
How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Early tools.
Tools. Yes. So yeah, just continuing with my art into high school. I took art and became a cheerleader. Not that I really wanted to be one, but I wanted the experience. And the reason I'm telling you about this experience is what I looked forward to is they left the art up to me to make these big banners for the football players.
I used to do that too. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was just, I'm just kind of thinking of influences or things that, were really lead up into like the circle of life of how it later in life you re-encounter it or it helps you in the future.
Yeah.
So then I did choose to be a studio art major, and I always had this big dream. One day I would be in New York and I'll have a studio and live like these artists you see on television or read about, when you're young. But life happens and reality sets in, and you just make the best of where you are.
That's right. That's right.
And you can do it anywhere.
That's true.
About art.
Yeah. That's so true.
Yeah. And so after college, I remember I got approached from a man named Robin, and he kept asking me if it was through Making Arts Alliance. They had this arts infusion, and I'm gonna have to recall a lot because this is a long time ago.
No problem.
Yeah. So Robin would ask me, Arrin, what will you consider doing an arts infusion program? And we take artists and we put them in the school system for 6 weeks, and you become you teach children. And I was so afraid. And he kept asking, and he was like, I really think you could do this. Well, I only took one education class in college, and I actually did my student, I guess you could say, student evaluation, where you sit there and watch the children and learn from the teacher. And it was at Central, Mr. Ruff, and he was actually my high school art teacher. Ran into him 2 days ago, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was so neat to see him.
Yeah.
Because he looks like Santa Claus, and he plays the role of Santa. He's actually parked right beside me, and I roll my window down. Hey, Mr. Ruff. So I did my little student evaluation there for a period of time. So I had that experience, but I didn't have a really experience teaching. So I actually got put in the school, Springdale Elementary. So for it was actually 12 weeks. So I had more than 6 weeks experience. Yeah. So for 12 weeks, you should have seen me trying to learn and teach myself and teach these kids. But I had my Uncle Wayne, the artist influence as a child. He actually had his portfolio because I think he went to Georgia College in Milledgeville.
Okay.
He loaned it to me and said, use this. And it was his student teaching of when he student. So back then we did not have resources like we have today.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was just it was so vague, and I had books to lean on, but his portfolio, I kind of could look at his work and then I could expand and make it my own.
Right.
And so
right.
that was my saving grace. But I will tell you, children's art is such an influence on me. I love their freedom of expression. They're not being really judged, and they don't know about judgment yet when they're really young.
Right.
So what they produce is just so imaginative and free, and I just love children, period. But it's just so neat to like learn from that experience for 12 weeks. So after that, it kind of was a door opening for me, because then I was able to have my first real teaching position. And that was in Warner Robins at Pearl Stevens Elementary. It was an at-risk school. What they failed to tell me is about behavior.
Oh.
So I felt like I spent my entire, year. It was not, I mean, you learned, you have to learn from all this. But it was a lot of just intervention of how to take care of the tools that we had to work with.
Right.
How to behave, how to treat and respect each other. I felt like I just couldn't dive into what I wish I could have produced.
Right.
But that was a good learning year. After that, I remember when the school year ended, I was just, kind of just trying to figure out life. Like, where can I go and be an artist? Like, what can I do with myself? And I was just driving downtown Macon one day and saw this sign that said First Street Arts. And of course, just that word art led me to go knock on the door. And it was on First Street. It was just the old building. I don't know the name of it now, but it was an old gymnasium, and they actually had a Montessori school. So I went in, and they led me to another building downtown on Cherry Street where Cashman's Pub is now.
Okay.
And that was the office. And I met one of my biggest influences of my life. He's passed, but his name was Dr. Glennon, and he was a Mercer professor.
Okay.
And he was just a visionary, a heart of gold, saw the best in everybody. And I just can't explain what he did for me as an artist, but he hired me through an AmeriCorps program. And it was such a blessing, because I guess I need to back up and say how First Street Arts and they were together, but he was creating a children's museum, and the Montessori school was at the First Street Arts building, and he had an arts program going for the kids and the after school program, which was going to eventually move into this children's museum.
Okay.
Is that making sense?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So he hired me, and, I'm just out riding around not knowing what to do with life. And I was led to First Street and see First Street Art. And I became the arts director, and my little experience of teaching opened those doors for the children's museum.
How about that? Yeah.
And, I just did the best I absolutely could, not knowing what an art director really was. I mean, I just coordinated classes. I was so young, so immature too, but I tried my best. And I wasn't a very good delegator, I'll be honest. I just tried my best, and we all learn, right?
Right. So
I guess as the startup of the Children's Museum, he just opened doors. When I say that, the AmeriCorps program was this is nonprofit, and the AmeriCorps paid for my college education. I mean, if I remember correctly, it was almost like $10,000 for 2 different years. So Wesley, thank you.
That is awesome. Yeah.
It was a God thing. But anyways, going back, I did that for a while, and then federal government, I guess, shut it down for whatever reasons I'll never know. But it was just another way of a door closing and trying to figure out what other door would open. And I knew that being an artist was going to be very difficult, that I would never have another dream job like I did. I did murals and helped design. I picked out paint and flooring. It was just incredibly an awesome job for a young, I think I was 23 at the time. But I sat there for 6 weeks with unemployment and trying to figure out myself. And I thought, well, maybe I could do, you know, outside sales, marketing. And I tried for pharmaceuticals. I tried for all these things were not in my element. And then Fox 24 actually hired me, and I was account executive. And it was an incredible job too, not art related, but I got to help with commercials and things like that. So it's still creative in your own essence.
Right, right.
Yeah, but what the tool was that helped me was the marketing. I got to
Ah,
know the community. I got to meet people, and I
a lot of
love,
contacts, a lot of
yes, I love
networking.
people.
Yes.
So it was kind of it was a blessing just to have that experience. And I had my second baby during that time,
Okay.
and he was born, and we had difficulties.
Okay.
I knew that he was going to have special needs. I didn't know what. But just as time went on, I continued to try to work. And then I realized I'm going to have to stay home. He's not a baby that I can leave. I didn't really feel comfortable leaving him in daycare to have a job. And I was like, but the good thing is I'm an artist. I can work for myself. So I was a stay-at-home mom. And I guess just trying to be, commission art and get my name out there. The first thing that I ever did for myself to get my name out was the Making Food magazine came out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, with Gary and Carla Schechterly. And I put an ad, I'll never forget. I think I paid $100 or $150 just to put an ad in a magazine. And I really had no clue what I was going to do. I just said, well, I'll do pastels. I always remembered I liked pastels in high school. And I remembered in first grade, I was like, and the man whipped them out so quickly. I was thinking I could just do these stylized pet portraits and I'll just put $100 for an 18 by 24 because I do like to work a little larger.
Right.
And I put the ad in the magazine and I started getting calls and people taking orders. And I would quickly whip these pet portraits out and I would see their faces. And they weren't really that happy because I'm thinking, okay, they don't understand the word stylized. Like I'm thinking
Right.
characters at the Six Flags or Disney World, you get this little
Right.
mythical
Right.
illustration. Well,
It's not photorealistic, folks.
Right.
So, yeah.
I was thinking, how can I whip out something really quick
Right.
and make it, reasonable and give me something to do at home while I'm home with my baby.
Right.
Or babies. I have 2 kids.
Okay.
So yeah, I was started these pet portraits and I could see in the people's eyes. I feel like I have this intuition when I meet people that I can just kind of
read them. And
yeah, I can read. I feel like I have a good call on most people.
Yeah.
So I would start these pet portraits. And then over time, I realized, Arrin, you've got to get serious. These people it's like their children. They want these pictures to look like their babies.
Right.
So I just had to become, I guess exercise a little bit with the pastel and try to get my art form a little bit better. And I had to learn. I really didn't know what I was doing with these pastels. I was playing. And over the years, I guess it's been about 19, 20 years, I've been doing the pet portraits. Now, I will say I'm taking a break from that.
Okay.
I really want to explore other things and get back into the art that is my drive and my passion.
Okay.
So,
and what is that? What is that passion?
So my passion is really illustration and painting with oils and acrylic paint. And I also love to illustrate with ink and watercolor. I mean, these are the things that are in my soul that I can't wait to sit down and, actually do for myself. Good. And then when I get commissions, it kind of keeps me busy. And when someone specifically asks you to do something just for them, it kind of takes away from that freedom of, you still want to do your best. Yeah. I still do my best.
Right.
But if they could just let me let go, I feel like I would have more to offer. But people really are specific.
They are.
You want to be pleasing.
Yeah.
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 So,
wow.
So yeah, and then I will say the whole window thing, I feel like sometimes the window art has taken away from my real focus and love and passion of more of the fine art, the illustration. But the window painting is just so therapeutic. And it was something I started at the Children's Museum. I met this window painter next door and he was painting the dance studio. and his name is Robert Jones. And y'all, he's the sweetest artist. He shared his secret. A lot of people don't share their secrets.
Right.
But he was in front of the studio and he was painting, and I was kind of watching him, and he was just so free to give me his advice and what he was doing and working with. And I watched him. And so I was like, I think I'll paint the windows for the kids. So I just kind of painted something just whimsical and fun and colorful, trying to bright up the downtown building. And then I started getting calls. Hey, can you come paint my restaurant? Can you do this?
Right.
But
Right.
it's funny, the paint that I used was not a great paint for outdoors. And you just learn over the years what works and what type paint to use.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
took a very long time. Now the
Yeah.
secret's out. It's all over TikTok, and everybody's painting windows now.
Right.
It was a
Right.
well-kept secret for a long time.
Well, you do some fabulous artwork. You know, that I was really impressed. I mean, the details of that is just unbelievable. It's so cool to see things like that, you know, at the holiday season. It kind of puts people in that holiday spirit, you know, when they go by and they see a building or they're shopping in a store and that's on the windows out front, you know, you just kind of, before you go in, at least me, and this is just me speaking, you know, about myself, I kind of get in that holiday spirit, you know, if it's a Santa Claus out there, or if it's a nativity type scene, or, you know, it might be candy canes or whatever it is, Charlie Brown, who knows? It kind of puts people in a holiday spirit when they see that and they drive by it and they say, oh, wow, isn't that so cool? But yeah, it's a different style or genre type of painting, you know, to do. And you're right, it takes a special kind of talent, I think, as well as you got to know the tricks of the trade, you know, what paints work best. I mean, you don't want to put something out there and the first rainstorm comes along that washes away, right? Yeah. So it's like, what happened to it? You know, I painted it yesterday and it's gone today because it rained. So you got to have something. So yeah, I'm sure you continue to learn. But anyway,
yeah, it's definitely fun doing the windows. I will say, like, it's crazy too how many doors it opens. Like, you do a window and then other people call. But there is something that's so different than painting on canvas or working with pottery or working on paper. The glass is just so smooth, and the space can be so large, and it's so much freedom. And it's almost like you escape. And when you know, everybody has the things they like material, or it's the way I'm trying to explain, like when people peel paint and they like the texture, like a sensory thing. It's almost a sensory thing for me to like paint on the glass because it glides so smoothly.
Mm-hmm.
It's also so quick, and it's so satisfying in the process. And yeah, you can move quickly with it. Some people might spend several hours, but I feel like it's a medium that I can do quick and get it done. And my kids are, my son's in school, and then I stop and I can get him off the bus.
Right, right.
So,
yeah, that's good. Now, how long have you been doing that?
So it's been 19 years painting windows.
Wow.
And every year I'm like, I'm not going to do it this year.
Not going to do it next year.
I'm going to focus on my art, because I really need to get back into like getting my work out, my art, my passion for the canvases. And
right.
I really need to focus. I feel like every year I say, this is the year I'm going to do that. And then you have these people contact you and you want to do it. It's just fun.
Well, you could limit it. I mean, just at the holiday season, Christmas season, and say, hey, the month of December, 1st of December, 2 weeks, I'm going to paint, and that's it. And then the rest of the 11 months, you've got to focus in on, what you're passionate about. So
I think you're right. I need to get organized.
Yeah. Be more structured there. That when I say structure, that can be a challenge for artists, the structure. Mm-hmm. So what do you find challenging as an artist?
So challenging as an artist, I would definitely say I get excited for art. Yeah, probably the time. I mean, time can be an issue just with, the kids and the interruption. Like, here's an example. In June of last year, we got a coonhound heeler mix, a puppy dog. And he has been the life of me for this past year. And to fit my art and hear his barking and know he needs playtime, I guess it's 2 months it was 6 months after we had him, my daughter finds another dog. And so now we
Oh,
have 2 young puppies, and yeah, I hear them barking right now,
what
but
one's a challenge, but then they have two that are,
yeah,
you
so
know,
just life
young.
challenges. You just don't, when you have
Right.
kids and you have family, just interruptions. But I mean, I could work into the night, but I do have a child that goes to school in Atlanta. He's at the deaf school. So his bus comes about 5:20 in the morning.
Wow.
So finding the time, I could paint all night. That's my really time that I would stay up and paint, but it is so difficult to have to get, my sleep and get up in the morning and be ready.
Get
Um,
him up and get him ready and on the
yeah,
bus and
he
that
needs
kind
a
of
little
thing.
help,
Yeah.
getting
Right.
ready and things like
Right.
that. It's just a lot of extras in life right now.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
I'm so grateful for, everything, being able to paint during the time that my kids are in, my son's in school. My daughter graduated, so she's actually
Okay.
working
Okay.
now.
Yeah. How old is your son?
So
See,
he is 16 and my
16?
daughter is 19.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Wow. Yeah.
So,
That you learn how to manage your time,
yeah, you
and
definitely do.
I can tell you're a busy person. You've got a lot going on in your life. And I was talking to a friend of mine, actually, it's my wife's boss, not too long ago. And we were talking about someone, and he was talking about how busy this person is and how sometimes it's hard for them to say no, and they take on a lot of extra work and that kind of thing. And they're so busy, but they're able to get it done. They get a little frustrated sometimes because they got a lot, but they're able to get it done. And I told him, I said, I've been involved in different things in the past and been extremely busy. And I was involved in a church at one time, and we had some positions in that in leadership, and we were just constantly busy. I mean, it's almost like you had a 40-hour week for your work, and then you had a 40-hour week for your church and other things going on. And it's amazing how sometimes you could say, well, if you want to get something done, and you've got this project, give it to the busiest person, because they know how to manage their
Oh, yeah.
time, because they know, okay, I can fit that in between 3 and 5 o'clock in the afternoon on Thursday and Friday, and I can knock this out. Other people, it's that procrastination,
Yep.
and sometimes as artists, we do procrastinate because we need that deadline. And I've talked to so many artists that struggle with that a little bit, because it's like, hey, I got all this freedom, I can work on this. But when they have that target date, I got to have this done so I can get it in this show, then their time management shifts. And it's like,
Yes.
okay, I got to kind of hurry and get this done. But yeah, I admire you for your ability to juggle all that and
Well, you
still
can
create
tell
your work.
I'm
Yeah.
somewhat the huge procrastinator, but I do my best work on the clock. But we kind of learn that too when
Yeah.
you're in college and you have those deadlines and all of
Oh,
us
yeah.
be in the
Yeah.
studio till 3 in the morning. Those are some of the best times of my entire life, is being
Right.
in there with other people that have the same creative mind, and well, different creative mind, but the
Right.
creative minds
The
together.
creative
It's
minds
so fun.
together. Yeah. But
Yeah.
you mentioned something about college, and college helps you and teaches you how to learn certain things, how to research, how to manage your time, how to work together with other people. Um, and as you know, a lot of people, when they graduate college, and they may have maybe it's an art degree, a business degree, or maybe it's a software development degree or whatever. Lots of times you don't really cover a lot of things in the real world, in the corporate world, that you studied in college, right? I mean, it's just, it
100% agree.
prepared you. Yeah, it prepared you. And there might be some things that you can fall back on or just refer back to. Oh, I remember working on something similar in college. But you learn a lot of on the job kind of training too, accounting method. Accounting is accounting, but maybe it's a software package that you use is different. You're not as familiar with it. And business, the same way. Art's the same way. So we learn from that. And I think in art, we just, there's challenges, but we fall back on some of the things that we experience to help us, with those challenges. But yeah. So, what's your favorite medium that you use? Is it oil, watercolor, acrylic,
Goodness,
or all three?
I love all of them for different
Okay.
reasons. I even love clay, and a lot of people don't know that I've always had a
Oh,
passion for clay, but I don't.
I didn't know that.
Don't have access to it. Yeah,
Yeah.
whenever I taught, I did teach at FPD for a couple years, and that's First Presbyterian Day School as an elementary teacher.
Right.
But
Right.
I enjoyed the pottery so much, and we had access to the kiln. But it was really me showing little tiny little projects for kids to
Right.
learn. And I'm no
Right.
expert with pottery. I just have a passion for all things creative, really.
Okay. Good.
I would say my favorite. I get a craving for a lot of different things, but I love to draw with a pencil or Indian ink and then do the watercolor or illustrate with different mediums. I like even marker with it. I like that. And I love, of course, acrylic and oil.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And I
Now,
love pastel. Pastel dries my hands out so bad. And
does it really? I haven't
yeah.
tried pastels. I've tried. I've done a little bit with acrylic. I've experimented and did some things last year with gouache, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But I'm mostly an oil painter. Yeah, that's my medium of choice. But I'm going to challenge you in 2026 to devote some time to some illustrations and using more drawing and ink and doing watercolor illustrations. So I'm gonna put something on my calendar to follow up with you
Okay.
3 to 4 or 5 months into next year, and hopefully we can do another interview and just say, hey, where are you at? And that's one of the things that I want to do too is after I interview some of these people, and I've done actually about 30 or 31 different types of interviews or highlights of shows and things like that on my podcast since I started it back in late March. So I do want to do a follow-up interview with you and say, where are you at today?
I love
What's
that.
been
I love
going
that.
on? Yeah. Yeah. And it's twofold. Where are you at? And here's some new artwork and so the challenge is on. I want to see some of this illustration stuff. So
Deal is done.
yeah, we will get back to that.
That's
So,
fun.
but I want to show, is there anything particular you want to share, kind of about your story? Because I want to show some of your artwork. I want to bring that on in just a second. So is there anything unique or special that you want to add before I do that?
No, I mean, I get asked. Been asked several times to illustrate people's children's books. I did one when I was, oh goodness, I think I wrote this story when I was probably 19 with a little argument with my twin sister, Farah.
Oh, you have a twin, huh?
I do have a twin, and she is a chainsaw artist.
What?
Chainsaw, yes. Wouldn't it be funny?
Where does she live? Where does she live?
So she is out. They actually just built and moved in their house. I guess it was in November. And she's out in the woods so she can start carving again. But she's healing from a neck surgery from last year. And I think she's being released where she can start back.
Okay.
She broke her neck on our trampoline when we were in sixth grade. And it affected her. And
good.
all that heavy lifting of a chainsaw.
Yeah.
She found
so is she local or is she in another state?
She's local. She actually built a house in Hillsboro, Georgia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's so beautiful out there.
Good for her.
Yeah, but she didn't discover her art until it's been probably 4 years. As she called me one day when we had moved to Forsyth 4 years ago. I'll never forget. We're in our new house, and she said, Arrin, I'm going to do something crazy today. And I was like, what? She said, I'm going to use my husband's, Brad is his name, his chainsaw. And I was like, for what? And she said, I'm going to try to carve. And I said, oh, well, be careful. We watched our dad use a chainsaw and go right through his foot when we were children.
Ooh, wow.
But luckily, he was sewed back together and didn't lose a toe. It was right between the big toe and the second.
Okay, she still has all 10 fingers and toes, right?
Yeah, just like the little window art, but hers is definitely a more like intensive creative art form because she has to buy the equipment. She wears the chaps. She has to like cover her body. She uses that as a Dremel, and she tells me like you have to be careful. It can pop off like a bullet, and you can become injured. I mean, she tells me some crazy stuff. She's brave with that chainsaw. Wow. She's learned a lot too. YouTube, and she follows a couple of people. And actually, she found one. I don't know if he was a chainsaw artist. I'm feeling like the person that put her cabinets in had some affiliate with the woodworking, and But yeah, I mean, she is creative too. I feel like we have a very creative family.
Oh,
Everybody's
sounds like it. Sounds
yeah, I have
like
a brother that's a welder and he installed like the metal detail in our house and our stairs. I mean, we really have creative people.
that's great.
I'm
That's
glad we
great.
all have
Talented.
outlets or we'd be crazy.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
maybe we
Well,
are crazy.
well, do you find art therapeutic?
Yes, this is my medicine for my soul. If I don't do it, I find myself in a depressive state. If I don't, yeah, I've got to get it out. I get crazy.
Kind of an escape
It
sometimes,
definitely
you
is.
know. Um, yeah, it is very therapeutic. I've experienced that. I don't know if you do this, but I'm the last couple of months I've been bad about doing it, but I started creating an art journal and I try to write in it and just say, hey, this is what I'm working on. This is what I'm feeling today. Maybe there's some other things that are going on in my life, with the family or what have you. And I just kind of write in the art journal. And it's kind of neat to go back. And I've done it the last 3 or 4 years or so. And like I said, the last couple of months, I haven't been as good at it. I think I went almost a month without writing something in there, but I was trying to do something every couple times a week. But yeah, it's great because you can go back and, oh, I forgot all about that or experience or
Yeah.
something. And what do you do? Do you stretch your own canvas or do you buy it or do you?
So I used to stretch my own canvas back in the
Okay.
day. We had to do
Okay.
that in college, learn to gesso and
Yep.
sand and do the process. And
Right.
do you know my first assignment from my studio art class with the oils? I think I failed it. If I remember correctly,
Really?
my first, and it tore my heart. I'm telling you,
Oh,
like, it was terrible. You just don't fail an art project. But it was because I didn't do the process correctly. And I remember we had to layer gesso, sand, and it was more in that direction. I did not follow directions because I get excited. I'm ready to start. And I was like, oh, I could just skip that. It was just a lesson learned.
yeah.
Sometimes you have to do the hard work before you get to the fun stuff.
Right.
And that definitely goes in hand when you're working on an art piece. People think you just start with details. No, you have to
Okay.
build that
Yeah.
up, and then your present comes last, and
Well,
that's
let's
your gift.
let's talk a little bit about that because as you were talking, made me think about, yeah, I want to find out about your process. So you've got a piece that you've behind you there, that's just beautiful. And so, what is involved in creating something like that? So you've got a blank canvas, and you're right. You just don't all of a sudden just. Whew, some people do,
Yeah.
just start, throwing paint on there. But some people have a process or a method that they follow. So,
Yeah. So whenever I have all artists go through this, you'll have that blank state. And I know you probably experienced it
mhm.
where you don't really have, um, I guess, that light bulb go off of what you want to do next. You get through a phase and you're focused and I get hyper focused, I would say.
Okay.
But the painting behind me is very intuitive. And when I am in a blank state of mind, I have no plan. I just get the canvas and I have to get it out. But I have such a passion for color. When you open that paint and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I get that excited with every color that I open. And y'all, I'm saying y'all to
That's
everybody,
okay.
but
Yeah, there's a lot of people out there.
hey, people. So sometimes I'll open a color, the neutrals just do not do it for me. I struggle in the browns and the greens and earthy colors, which are so beautiful, but it's just not me. And whenever I open the paint and I'm just seeing these colors, sometimes I just like them just bold and just straight from the tube. And really, the one behind me, I just had a brand new paintbrush and it was just flat and perfect, and it wasn't sticking out anywhere, if you know what I mean, when those brush
Right.
hairs start
Right.
coming out and leave
Yeah.
the strands. It was just a
Yep.
perfect brush. And I was like, wow, I just feel like these squares, and it just kept building, and I like the depth, and I just started pulling out paint. Now, you see the green? That is not me. I think I was really truly playing with this piece, trying
Okay.
to get out of my box. But
Okay.
yeah, I mean, I really have this desire with the black I like to outline. It's just, I think it's that childhood illustration phase that I went through. It's just carried on throughout these 48 years.
Okay.
So, anyways, to get that paintbrush and draw with the paintbrush, I'm really bad about that, but it works for me, and it's kind of like my art style. So I really illustrate a lot with the black bold line, and then I like to come in, of course, with the wash. And I think if I say it correctly, it was a Spanish word called the El Primatura. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Don't quote me, but you just cut. You do a wash over your.
Right. Imprimatura. Yeah.
Yeah,
First. Yeah.
thank you.
Hmm.
So I
Okay.
probably said that completely wrong. But I just love building the color. And then there's
Hmm.
this little thing that I guess over you start, if you go to a museum and you're really looking at some art, little things and paintings can draw you in. And it could be the
Hmm.
spot, like the layers coming through.
Right.
If I can describe this, there is a part of my paintings that I crave, and it's that black line. And when the color meets that line, that little edge, it's like my obsession.
Okay.
And sometimes I'll take my finger and go along it along the side. I can't even explain it, I guess, but it's just something weird and quirky that I crave. At least it's not a drug addiction, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah. No, that's great. That's great.
Does
Yeah.
it make sense though?
It
Yeah, it's the
does.
building of color and how one color can, oppose to next to the next color, and you see that contrast, and it's just
Yeah.
so moving. And
Hmm.
people don't realize you don't really have to draw to paint. You can just splash some color on there and make it work, make some shapes.
Yeah. I appreciate you saying that because that's one of the things I struggle with a little bit is, and I'm getting back into sketching and drawing, because when I was younger, I could draw and sketch pretty good. I was pretty good at it, but it's like a muscle. If you don't use it, it gets
Really.
weak and that kind of thing. And so, what I started doing was trying to devote an hour every morning from like 7 to 8 in the morning just to draw practice, and it could be something that's on a cup, or it could be something that's in my studio, or it could be maybe the next painting that I'm going to work on. I'm just sketching it out and getting composition and stuff like that, just trying to work on that because I was thinking I was looking at doing some still lifes, and I said, I need to get my sketching a little bit better. But then again, some artists, they just take that paintbrush and they'll use maybe a earthy tone color, and they'll just sketch on the canvas with loosely, what it is they're going to paint. And it's not just a lot of detail sketch, which sometimes I get too anal with that. And I need to kind of loosen up, be a little bit freer. And maybe I just need to kind of thin out the paint and get the paintbrush and just get it, the basics down, the shapes down. And then you can always come in and refine it when you start painting, you
Right.
know. So if my pear or my apple is, not quite as the shape that I need it to be in my initial sketch, well, with paint, I can paint and create what I need to. So, but yeah, I've
You
talked to a
cut
lot of,
out just a little bit.
yeah. Um, but anyway, let's show some of your artwork. Okay.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to bring this up, and I'm going to add this to the stage here. And I'm going to go back a little bit here because it looked like we were at the end. But this is the beginning here. And I wanted to show this one because it does give everyone an idea of the size of some of the paintings that you do. And we talked a little bit earlier before we started recording the interview, is that this is probably something like a 3 foot by 4 foot painting there. And you do like to paint large, which is great, I think. So, all right. Let's talk about these two.
Okay. These are several years ago, but Zoo Atlanta did. I remember trying to adventure, like what could I do next with my art? And this was when I was, really beginning staying at home with my children and trying to do art on the side at home. And I Googled art events, what open calls, and I came across Zoo Atlanta, and they were doing an Art Gone Wild. It was like the first year for Art Gone Wild, which was a plein air event. And they accepted, I think it was 40 artists to come into the zoo. And when I tell you, it was one of the best experiences of my life, and what came with it was just amazing. But anyways, these two are from the plein air at Zoo Atlanta. And the little secret I have is when you go places, it just, I talked about how things open doors and you meet people and
Right.
like minds. Well, one day I'm painting, or I actually was doing a pastel of Utensi. It was a rhino. And I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden this lady comes up and she says, "Have you met the baby?" And I said, "No, I didn't know there was a baby." And she goes, "Oh, well, I work here." And she wasn't dressed like a zookeeper, but she asked if I wanted to come behind the scenes. She took me behind the scenes to see this baby rhino.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and it was
What an
like,
experience.
well, what was even more intriguing and exciting was you have to put these little booties on your shoes and you have to clean your feet. There was a process to go into the background,
Mm-hmm.
and we're separated by bars, and the bars are probably maybe 4 inches apart, but you can squeeze your hand through. And she starts petting the baby like it was a dog. And I
Wow.
was like,
How about that?
"You gonna let me do this too?" And she did. And I touched that rhino, and it felt like what I could imagine a dinosaur would feel like. But you ever had these moments of like, this is so surreal. This is the most surreal moment of my entire life. I am petting a baby rhino. And then on top of that, she sticks her hand in his mouth like it's a baby bottle, and the baby starts sucking on her hand. And I got to do that. And it was amazing. He didn't have teeth in the front. So it was just one of those neat opportunities that, once again, you follow your dream, your passion, your love. And I feel like it was where God gave me a neat opportunity. I mean, who gets to do that?
Right.
So,
These are beautiful. Yeah. I like the blue and the elephant, especially. That's why I selected it to be in this
thank
little
you.
show here. These are a couple different pieces. Tell us a little bit about these.
So the one on the right was just a commission, and sometimes I have people that have photos work, and they're like, "I really want this for your for my house. It goes with my living room and it matches." And sometimes people specify what colors. I think I talked about it earlier, that sometimes when people are really specific of what they want, it's that artist freedom kind of closes up a little bit. But I got to play, and now that I'm thinking about the second one, I'm talking about a very similar painting that I did on the right. I had done for a lady's house that was very specific, like, can we do this art form and this style? And it wasn't really my style, but then you learn from everything you do. And I just kind of learned a different kind of technique and style, trying to not really copy, but make something that was someone else's my own. And then that led to the second commission, which is this piece. And
Okay.
I just try to make it a little similar, but put my touch into it and use what they had kind of preferred. You want to make your client happy.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
And the one on the left, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go back. There you go.
A friend of mine that moved out to Texas had commissioned me for her new house, and she had seen just my intuitive. I can't remember. It was not this piece behind me, but it was something very similar where I was just doing intuitive painting, not knowing what to do. And I was just playing. You can see the movement is kind of circular, and you can see it actually stems from, just kind of showing you how you grow from one piece to another.
Right.
With the circles and the roses. And then I'm just playing intuitively. And that's how that piece came about. And it was a commission. She told me to do whatever I want. And that was my little freedom right there.
That one on the right kind of reminds me a little of Van Gogh.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's always a compliment, because he's one of my favorites.
All right. Good. All right. Tell us about these. Tell us a little bit about the one on the left first.
Okay, the one on the left, is just once again intuitive paintings. I see all these abstract artists playing. I see, there's some local artists too, in Macon, and I'll see their work, and I'm like, it's just fun to explore with make your own patterns. You don't really have direction. Just give yourself the freedom. And that was just one of those things. I had a bunch of colors that you open that paint, you have that aha moment where that paint feels really good. It just does something to you visually. And yeah, I was just painting with color and kind of explored technique with layering. And then, yeah, I was just trying to make something really cool and felt really good to me.
Okay. How about the one on the right there?
Yeah, the one on the right is an intuitive painting too. I went through this phase for Easter. I was like, I feel like sometimes I want to explore like more sometimes religious paintings. You want to do something. I don't know. It was just the holiday for Easter, and I did
Right.
a couple of pen and ink to begin with, and I made a video. I had downloaded this little silly app to make a video. I wasn't really good with making videos at the time, but I wanted to show people a process using pen and ink and watercolor. And I just created a Jesus, and then I put words to it for Easter, what it was about. And then I was like, I had so many requests after that post. People were just requesting, can you paint me one for Easter? Can you do this? And I just had a big canvas, and I decided to do the Jesus with acrylic, and that's how that came about. And it was actually one of the fastest paintings I've ever done. I think it took less than 30 minutes in a
You're
church.
kidding, really?
No, I'm not kidding. It
Wow.
was
Good
so
grief.
simple. I did not
Yeah.
layer the paint. I just drew it with my paintbrush and just played. I mean, it was so quick. And this is one thing I did do. I stopped myself. I'm really bad about overworking because you want to I like to build the paint. I made myself stop, and yeah, it sold. It sold to a church.
Well, how big is that piece?
I think that one's 36 by 36. If
Really?
not, it's 48 by 48, if I remember correctly. It's pretty big.
Yeah, there's another one. I don't have it included in this little
Mhm.
slideshow, but I did see another one of Jesus out there on your, I think it's Fine Art America site. Yeah.
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 I think I know which one you're talking about, and that
Uh-huh.
was sold to a church in Barnesville.
Oh,
It's
okay.
it's funny, you do something and then people see it and they want you to do it again, but your
Right.
mind's in a different space.
Yeah.
And you're trying to like recreate how did you feel at that moment? And that's what I try to redo. Like, how did I feel? Sometimes those feelings
Sometimes
don't
it's
come
hard to
back.
do. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I do like to repeat different paintings sometimes and see if I can do it better or different, or you like I said, it's just learning and play.
Yep. All right. These two are, you and I talked a little bit. We kind of went through the little slideshow, and I really like these two. I like all of them, but these two I think are probably my favorite because the one on the left, as I mentioned to you earlier and prior to the interview, it reminds me of Van Gogh, and then the one on the right reminds me of Claude Monet, and
Thank
those
you.
are two of my favorite
Yeah.
artists. What
So
inspired you to do the one on the left?
So the one on the left, my husband's from Paris, France, and we have a lot of images of the different parts of Paris. He grew up in Montmartre.
Okay, we're gonna have to talk about that offline as to how you met and
Oh yeah, that
everything.
story.
Yeah.
But thanks to Children's Museum, I would go next door to the restaurant, and that's where I met him. To
Okay.
sum it up, but see, I was working for an art job,
Right.
and it was just neat how life happens. But the painting on the left is I think it's Le Consulate, if I say it correctly. And yeah, it's one of those paintings I stopped myself. I just like the underpainting and I stopped. That is the underpainting. My goal was to like build up that paint in this one, just like the Jesus. I wanted to build it up. I like my paint thick and luscious. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
different reasons. And I sketched it out just like if I were drawing. I have the bad habit of taking that paintbrush and drawing with my paintbrush rather than actually painting. I like to sketch. And as I would fill in, I just felt like, gosh, I really have captured a night scene. And I left it. I left it really quickly after I added my underpainting. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. And the one on the right is from the Stone Mountain plein air. And I'm no expert with plein airs. I just go and I just do what I feel. I mean, I really see these artists with their plein air easels. Y'all should see how I work. I don't have a plein air easel that I use. I take my little folding table. I work as I'm painting a window. Like I have my bucket for my water, and it's really kind of funny how my setup would be next to a true professional plein air artist, because I have to have a space. Like I'm kind of like out there, like I want space around me. I can't be confined to that little tiny easel. And when I did this, my daughter was little at the time, and she went with me, and I took a picnic blanket. We spread it out. I dumped all the paints on the blanket. We sat on the ground, and that was actually pastel. And I used pastel for this one, but I did have the paints and did other stuff too that day. But that one does have a diptych. Like it has another one somewhere.
Okay. So do you do, and before we go to the next little slide here, do you do a lot of plein air events?
Well, I haven't. I guess you could say some people have not done plein airs. You could say I have done quite a few. For people that have never done one, I may have had under my belt maybe, I don't know, is that a lot? I don't know. I'd have to there and count. But I've done Zoo Atlanta for 3 years in a row. And, those last a week or 5 days. And I've done Stone Mountain and, Juliet. There's just been a couple. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
It's really fun, even though sometimes I don't know what I'm doing, but the whole experience. And
well, you meet a lot of neat people too.
So many, and I love it.
Yeah. That's good. All right. Where's this one on the left? Where's that?
So that was the recent plein air after I did the Juliet and I won that little ribbon.
Yeah, I think we got a slide for that in just a second.
So after that, I Googled that week, any more plein airs. I'm just Googling, is there any more? This is so fun. I want to do it again. And I found out Pine Mountain that following Saturday had a plein air, and I signed up for it. And I did get a People's Choice Award. So it was really a fun day.
That's great. The one on the right, that is a big painting. Where's that at?
I cannot recall the name of that restaurant. I don't think it's open any longer. It's not open any longer. I do know that. But it was a restaurant in downtown Macon, and I was asked to come in and paint a longhorn. And then in the back room, I had painted a few more cows, longhorns on a back wall. So it was fun, just black and white, so simple. And, it's funny. Sometimes the simplest things that you do, people are attracted to. And I got more people asking me about that than what I spent hours on or what I felt like was more worthy. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. So how did you get commissioned to do that piece or those pieces for that restaurant?
I would window paint the business owners' windows. See how that job led to this job?
Yeah. Okay.
And I've done a few murals, like elementary schools and things like that. And so he asked if I could do some murals in his restaurant.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I think this is our last little slide here, and does have the one on the left. Tell us a little bit about the one on the left first. Let's talk about that one.
So that was in Pine Mountain with the previous painting.
Okay.
And it was really a great day. Artists love, if you're like me, I can sell anything. Like not like that. I've said that wrong. I will sell anything. Any art is available is what I'm trying to say.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I mean to say.
Okay.
So I had people before I ever finished ask if they could purchase it. And one lady put me on the spot, and this is not a bad way that she did it. She just said, I would like to buy your painting. Can you tell me a price? And I did not have a price yet. And
that's kind of hard if it's not finished yet. I mean,
I know. Yeah. Well, I was just thrilled that day that anybody was even interested in my painting, But I realized I had more than, 2 people asking me. And I was like, well, maybe if I whip out a second one after I finish this painting, if I can do another one before 4 o'clock, because that was the deadline to turn in our work. So I just moved. I actually turned my painting station around to the other side to paint the other side of the street, and that was my view. And I did it really quickly, and I think it was the little visitors bureau, and the lady bought it. But I did it so quickly too. That was another like maybe less than an hour. And it's a sketch. To me, it's sketching. I sketched it and filled in the color. And
it's a beautiful piece of art. I love it. Yeah.
oh, thanks. It's just fun. Sometimes the faster and the more loose you are, it's that freedom,
Right.
again, that we talked about.
Right. All right. The one on the right is at Juliet, and that was earlier this year, wasn't it? When they had that?
Was it
Just
October?
a few months ago? Yeah, I think so.
Time flies. I'm trying to remember. Was it October, November?
I think it might have been October.
I think it was maybe. Towards the end.
Yeah.
So that was the plein air. And when I arrived, I was the early bird. I was the first one there. So excited because I had not painted in so long. And I was just excited to get out my brush and paint something for myself. And in my mind, before I arrived, knowing this was Juliet, I already knew I wanted to paint the restaurant from the fried green tomatoes. I already knew that. So, but I wanted to get there early too, because I wanted to make sure I could put my easel where I wanted to. So I set up my table, my easel and all that facing the restaurant in the parking lot. And it's kind of limited where to sit because there's not much space between the road and the parking lot. And you didn't want to be in people's way. But I got me a little space and I sat there and I decided to do the front of the building. And it's acrylic, so I could do that quickly. So we didn't have much time to paint that day. I think it started at 8 and we had to turn in our art by 12. So
yeah, that was I think I'd found out about it a little late because I thought, well, it might not be too bad to go up there because I'm in Warner Robins, so I could have,
well, we need to keep each other in the loop for the next plein air so we can meet.
Yeah, I'd like to.
And we'd have fun painting together.
I think so.
I know so.
I don't, in Warner Robins, I enjoy living here, but there's not a lot to go out and paint Warner Robins. And Macon's kind of the same way. So, Juliet's probably a good place. And it's kind of in the middle in a way. And there's some other artists that probably would like to come out and do some plein air painting too, just an informal group. So perfect.
Well, I wanted to tell you, Victor, that after this plein air event happened, there's an older gentleman, I can't recall his name, but he has a little art studio there and he has this huge easel at his front door and the little Juliet. You can't miss it. And he's more like, to me, he's a folk artist and he was so precious. But he said he was going to try to organize it where they could do plein air once a month. So when that happens, and if I get my name in the loop and I can find out the information,
please let me know. Yeah,
we'll have fun.
We'll get up there.
Anybody else out there listening that wants to join us, we'll have a fun day.
Exactly.
It's good positive energy.
Bring a little bag of lunch or a sack lunch or something, and
they actually fed everybody from the restaurant. Well, yeah. So.
Oh, cool. All right, I'm going to try to bring something in here. And you and I kind of reviewed this a little bit. So I'm going to try to add this to the stage. And this is a video that I got off of, I think either TikTok or your Instagram, where you paint some furniture. So this is kind of different. When you think about it, because I saw this and I thought, oh my gosh, look at that. And I didn't realize it that you actually painted the blues and the pink colors on the actual furniture. So talk a little bit about that, because you had to use special paint for that.
Yeah. So I know we talked about this earlier, but I'll share with the audience. Anthropologie is the store in Atlanta. So this is my influence for these chairs. They have furniture. You can go online and look at their crazy fun furniture. Sometimes they'll have whimsical chairs and pretty pricey. I mean, I don't want to spend what they're asking for. And I was like, I could make that. I wish I was a fabric artist, but I just looked on Facebook Marketplace one day, and then I think it was a friend of mine who actually posted these. She had 2 chairs for $50, and I said, I'll take them. Went and picked them up, brought them home, and I had done a little research, like how do you paint fabric? And I was going to invest in fabric paint, but then I found a recipe online and made my own fabric paint with really the paint that I use for my windows, which is latex. So you take latex and fabric softener, which I purchased from the dollar store. And I'll tell you something fun about fabric painting is it smells so good. I mean, yeah, you're like mixing that paint, and of course you mix a little water in too. But yeah, the whole time you're painting, you're like, ooh, it's so fresh and so clean. It smells so good. But yeah, so I just was influenced by some of the furniture that I saw through the anthropology and wanted to create my own. And I felt like I had the perfect 2 chairs with a blank canvas. And honestly, I just went into, I think actually I got the paint from Ace. I love Bear paint, but I went to Ace and got their little samples and looked at the paint tips, and I just chose the colors that I was drawn to.
I love those 2 colors that that you use for the chair colors. The pink. It's almost the color of your shirt you've got on, and then the blue. And I kind of see a color throughout your paintings as a blue color.
I know. I don't know why
that you use a lot of blue.
I do.
Yeah. So we've talked for over an hour here, and I'm going to ask you 3 questions.
Okay.
Okay. What's your favorite color?
Blue.
I kind of set you up for that one.
But I do love, it's hard to narrow it down to blue. I do get drawn to the blue family, but I also love red, pink, and orange together. Those 3 colors to me are just so satisfying.
Yeah.
But beside each other, like together.
Right.
Separately, I'm not a big fan of red, but together with pink and orange, I love it.
Okay. If you could have a superpower, what would it be?
Superpower to heal the sick.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah. That's great. All right. Money's not an object. So describe for us your dream studio. How big would it be? What would you have in it? Where would it be?
I will tell you my dream studio.
Okay.
If you're from Warner Robins, do you remember Po Folks?
Oh, yeah.
The original building was my dream to have that building. But as far as a studio, like if I could have one now, because Po Folks, that doesn't exist anymore.
No, unfortunately.
It's so funny. As a kid, I always dreamed of that being my building. I would definitely have a studio with garage doors that lift, which, sometimes I use my garage because I love natural light. I think that's why I'm drawn to plein air. But I would love to have an old building that was well kept. I don't have to do maintenance, and have those garage doors, and I could just work and throw paint and never have to worry about getting a drop on the floor. I would just have that complete freedom to throw paint, do whatever it is that I feel my heart's desire.
Right.
But it has to have a lot of natural light. If I could have solar power panels in the top, or just to have a lot of skylights, big windows, but just a space for me to have that freedom.
I love it.
Yeah.
My space has got to have a lot of room for storage because I have a lot of stuff.
I'm thinking that too.
I have a lot of paint, brushes, canvases, picture frames, all that kind of stuff.
You and I both could have an airplane hanger. That's what I'd take.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would dream of that.
I don't know if you've been out to the Air Museum there in Warner Robins, but the Century of Flight hangar or something like that behind the main museum, they have a lot of events out there, and that's a good size hangar for a studio. Mine wouldn't be that big, but
I would even love a studio space with artists because long as it's big enough where we would never interfere in each other's space. Because I love to talk as I paint. I love to have
Right.
someone there. And it reminds me of the studio art time that we had in college in the big studio. And you'd go in at wee hours of the night and someone would be there painting. And then just the night talk and the adventures and what you talk about. It's just so much fun.
Yes. And we need that. And we need that in Central Georgia, to have that community where we can come together as artists and just kind of chat and talk about what's going on. And I'm in some different groups that we try to do that,
Oh, that's nice.
and everything. Yeah. So I'll talk to you a little bit about that offline. But you consider yourself a professional artist because you're making a living from what you do. What do you find? What do you find challenging about that? Maybe it's, and let me ask you this: how do you sell your art? Is it more word of mouth? Is it through social media? Is it through your website?
Well, you remember it began with that little ad in that magazine.
That's
You
right.
have to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
I mean, scary or not, just do it. But for anybody out there just trying to get your name, I mean, I'm forever still, I mean, I don't know the answer other than thankfully now this day and time we have TikTok, Facebook, Instagram.
Right.
All of my commissions really come from that. And I really, we talked earlier, my goal, hopefully when we talk again, I really want to just focus on my art and get it more into galleries and get it more out there.
Okay. Well, Arrin, I want to thank you so much for taking some time out of your extremely busy schedule.
Calm down. My season ended for the holidays.
Yeah.
So I was so thankful.
And I wasn't offended in no way when you said, can we push this? Can we push this? Because I knew you had, I said, well, she's still doing some storefront stuff. She's going to be busy almost up to Christmas, So
we only had until 3:00 every day until I had to walk to the bus.
Yeah. But this has been fabulous. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. It's great to get to know you. I look forward to meeting you in person and everything. But I just want to thank you again for being on the podcast. And I just want to thank everybody for tuning in and catching this episode of Artist Stories of Middle Georgia. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Share this with your friends, your fellow artists. And if you know of an artist that I haven't interviewed yet that you'd like for me to interview, please leave me a comment or you can email me. My contact information will be in the show notes. And I'm also going to put Arrin's contact information in the show notes as well. But thanks everybody for tuning in. And we'll catch you guys in the next episode. Bye now.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, folks. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Artist Stories of Middle Georgia. Today's episode is brought to you by Cornerstone Academy of Art and Design, located in Macon at 1305 Hardeman Avenue, Suite 200. If you are interested in taking lessons to become an artist, they offer a variety of classes to help you learn and develop your artistic talent. Check them out on Facebook, Instagram, and the web. Please like and subscribe to the channel, and as always, keep painting, everyone.